Mira's mother checked on her around 2 a.m. Mira was lying asleep, but her shadow was standing. The silhouette on the wall was upright, head tilted unnaturally, staring directly at her mother. When Mira woke up, she didn't scream. She just sat up and said, "Why are you staring at my friend?" Then the shadow lifted its arm, and Mira's body rose into the air as though pulled by invisible threads. The crucifix on the wall flipped upside down. The door slammed shut on its own. Mira whispered, "Don't look at its face. It hates that." Her mother sprinted down the hall to get her husband, barely able to breathe. She dragged him back toward the room, trembling so badly she could barely hold the doorknob. As they rushed down the hallway, every light bulb overhead shattered. In perfect sequence, pop, 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 each burst louder than the last, as if something was following just above them. When they reached Mira's room, she was sitting calmly on the bed, smiling softly, but her shadow wasn't beside her anymore. It was stretched across the ceiling like a spider, limbs bent wrong, its head twisted, sideways, staring down at them with a tilt that looked violently unnatural. Her father froze. Her mother gasped. Mira calmly whispered, "It doesn't want you in here." And the door slammed shut again, locking them out. That night, the house didn't sleep. The parents sat together on the couch, clutching each other, listening to the sounds inside the walls. Soft scratching, slow dragging, occasional thuds like something knocking faintly from behind the drywall. Around 3 a.m., their bedroom door creaked open by itself. No footsteps, no breathing, just the door swinging inward, inch by inch. They rushed to Mira's room again, but this time the hallway felt wrong, too long, as if it stretched between blinks, and the shadows on the walls seemed deeper, darker, thicker than normal shadows. Inside Mira's room, she was awake, standing in the middle of the floor, her eyes wide open, unblinking, staring at a corner of the wall. Her shadow wasn't under her feet. It stood behind her, taller, pulsing, its edges rippling like smoke trying to remember its shape. Her parents backed away slowly. The next morning, Mira acted normal, except she never blinked. Her shadow lagged behind her by half a second, and whenever someone mentioned sleep, she giggled softly and whispered, "It sleeps when I don't." That day, her parents called a priest. The moment he stepped inside Mira's room, the temperature plunged. His breath came out white, the cross around his neck tarnished, black instantly. He held it tightly, but his hand shook as if something was pulling his wrist downward. Mira's eyes didn't move, but her shadow did. It slid across the wall, creeping toward the priest like spilled water moving uphill. He tried to speak, but his voice cracked. He asked, "Is something inside you?" And Mira smiled with a stretched, unnatural grin. A second voice, deeper, distorted, came from her throat as she said, "No, it's behind me." Her shadow twisted, limbs cracking into sharper angles. One arm stretched across the wall, fingers scraping with a bone-like sound. Her parents screamed. The priest fled. Desperate, her parents found an exorcist. He arrived at sunset carrying holy water, a ritual book, a thermal camera, and an audio recorder. The moment he crossed the threshold, he swallowed hard and whispered, "Something invited itself here." When he reached Mira's room, he stopped. The walls were breathing, expanding slightly, shrinking slightly, as if the room had lungs. Mira sat perfectly still on her bed, but her shadow was pacing around her, slowly circling her body without needing her to move. The exorcist took a step in, and the floor creaked like something heavy stood directly under the floorboards. Mira whispered, almost pleading, "Don't start, please don't make it angry." He ignored her weak voice and began reading from his book. Immediately, every shadow in the room slid toward Mira. Shadows of the dresser, shadows of the bed, the exorcist's own shadow, her parents' shadows from the doorway, all of them pulled toward her like magnets, to the center of the room. The candles around her bent inward, flames sucked toward her body. The air thickened, pressure building in their ears, making them feel like they were underwater. Mira's shadow began to peel upward from the floor, not fully, but enough to show that a space existed between her and it. Enough to show it wasn't her shadow anymore. Her voice split into two tones again as she cried, "Stop hurting it." The exorcist read louder. Mira screamed, her spine arched, bones cracking loudly, her arms twisted backward. Her head snapped up like invisible hands yanked her chin. Her shadow rose. It stretched its arms, long, thin, clawed. A second pair of arms sprouted, then a third. The walls vibrated, the ceiling cracked. The camera on the tripod flickered violently. Mira dropped suddenly to the floor, silent, motionless, her head turned slowly toward the camera, but her shadow turned toward the exorcist. Two separate movements, two separate entities. She whispered, "It's not wearing me anymore." Her shadow expanded behind her into jagged, bat-like wings, made of darkness so thick it swallowed light. "It's wearing something else." Then everything erupted. The lights shattered. The bed levitated. The dresser slammed against the wall. The closet door pounded as if fists were beating from the inside. The thermal camera blinked between red, blue, black, red again, like it was losing its mind. The growl that filled the room wasn't human. It wasn't animal. It sounded like something enormous exhaling from beneath the earth. The exorcist kept shouting prayers until the room exploded in sound, and then the camera cut out. The next morning, Mira was gone. Her room was icy, cold enough to frost. The walls, the melted upside-down cross was fused into the wood. A long drag mark stretched from her bed to the closet and stopped inside it. Dust covered the floor except for a single perfect trail leading into the darkness. The windows hadn't been opened. The door had been locked from the outside. No footprints, no sign of escape. The police reviewed the footage, but it didn't show Mira, or the exorcist, or her parents, or the bed, or the dresser. It showed only one thing, a tall shadow standing alone in the middle of the room. It was breathing, its chest expanding slow, controlled, patient, its head slightly tilted like it was listening. Then it moved its hand, long, broken fingers stretching toward the camera, and the recording ended. The police called it corrupted. The family left town before sunrise. Everyone believed it was over. It wasn't. Last night I heard 3 slow knocks at my door. Not loud, not angry, just steady, patient. When I opened it, no one stood outside. Only one thing lay on the ground, Mira's necklace. The chain was warm in my palm. Warm, like someone had been holding it tightly moments earlier. Warm, like a pulse. And the cross was upside down. When I lifted it, I noticed something on the wall beside me. My shadow, and behind it, another shadow, longer, crooked, bent wrong, leaning in the opposite direction of my body. I stepped back, and that second shadow stepped forward, even though nothing was there to cast it. It raised its arm, slowly, reaching for me, stretching its fingers toward my head. I closed my eyes, but I could feel cold breath on my shoulder. I don't think it followed Mira. I don't think it followed her family. I think it followed the recording. It followed whoever heard her story, whoever watched what happened. I think it attaches itself to attention, to observers, to witnesses. And now, it knows me. It knows I opened the door. And it knows I'm telling this story out loud. And I don't think it's standing behind me. I think it's standing behind you.